You received a call from an inmate at the Department of Corrections. This call will be recorded and monitored. If you wish to block any future calls of this nature, dial 7 now. To accept this call, press 5 now. To decline this call, hang up.
Well, hello there, Mr. Green. Oh, well, that's interesting. So you have a trans female as your roommate? Okay, so in this state, usually they put trans females in the women's prison. Why is this person in the male prison? Uh, well, I guess it takes quite a bit to get kicked out of the women's prison. And doesn't look like this person is doing very well in the men's prison too, because you're not too pleased by this decision of the DOC. Well, yeah, if you put biological males who identify as a female in the male prison, maybe. I mean, there could be issues, but that could work either way. Same thing with biological females that identify as a male. You put them in the male prison, and I've heard a few that had that, but it just didn't quite work out because males they can be very violent toward someone like that, and females could be very violent towards someone like that as well. So it's just, I guess, that's a touchy subject for me. I don't think the there should be intermingling like that, but it is kind of interesting that this individual hit on you though. So but that's I guess that's just the way things are these days. And I know, and your rights are limited, but you can't really pick and choose who's going to be your cellmate. And I imagine if somebody got hurt, maybe that would move things around, but I don't really know what the logic is behind that. I mean, they know there's sexual assault and consensual sex, and just sex in general between um, male and female, and staff members and incarcerated people. It's just been going on for centuries. It's just life. And but with all this that's going on, you think they would learn a little bit about how to at least cut down on it. And this kind of stuff doesn't really cut down on anything. Even if you were to put two trans males in the cell together, there could be an issue. So I don't know. I think if anything, they should get together and talk to you guys. Individual incarcerated people should be allowed to have some kind of input on how we classify people that go to these prisons. I mean, they classify them according to their crime, and but race, I really, I mean, if you're two biological males sharing the same cell and you're both the same race or same religion or opposite religions or opposite races, okay, but I don't
You
know.
have 60 seconds remaining.
Well, I can imagine it would make you upset, but you're going to have to make your voice heard. That's something that I'll kind of put out there because I've spoken to trans people, and there are some that are very upset about that kind of situation, and others that don't care. And then those that get out, it's hard for me to talk to them. And those that are in there, they're limited on what they can say or do. But I know there's a few lawsuits and stuff that's coming out. But of course, lawsuits
You have 30
concerning
seconds remaining.
transgender people tend to get hidden, and a lot of hush money paid on something like that. So it'd be really tough to get the word out of what's going on in there. And I know I've read a few articles and seen some news magazines that touch on that subject, and really nothing's done because the DOC, they're kind of out in the league of their own. They don't answer to anybody, and we need to keep an eye on them.
Thank you for using inmate call. Goodbye.
Hello, welcome to AQS Inmate Call, and I'm your host, Joel Wilborn. And in this episode, I want to talk about something that was recently discussed on a television show. It was one of those night shows, and I had a panel of people that would pick a subject and they would talk about it. And it just kind of brought up 2 points, which just kind of thought that, maybe I should talk about this. There's some things that's going on out there I think the public should know. And as a prison reformist and advocate, it's my job to inform the public on what is going on inside those prisons when I hear about them. Now, this panel, they were discussing the solar eclipse. And there were some inmates in New York who had this sincerely held religious belief that they had a right to see this eclipse. And they didn't want the prison to be on lockdown and them to be included in this lockdown so they couldn't see the eclipse. And they were threatening to sue the state. Well, eventually the state came to an agreement, and 6 inmates are allowed to watch the eclipse. I don't even see why that would come up. But they were discussing this, and they came up with, well, prisoners don't have rights. And, it was kind of funny to hear that in the way they presented it, but yeah, they do. They have religious rights. They have freedom of speech. They have a right to have a jury, a trial, in case they're accused of something in there. And even though they're locked up doesn't mean they're not going to be arrested for anything. And they have a right to life. And they have a right to medical care and to study. So there's a lot of rights they have. It's just that their rights are limited. The biggest right that was taken from them is their freedom. And yes, it does affect them. It is traumatic for a lot because they would like to be out in the open. Like one of the people told me in a email response, enjoy your freedom. And yeah, I do enjoy my freedom. And I know if it were ever taken away from me, every moment I would appreciate being free and I would think back on it. There's people who were locked up during a war, prisoners of war. And there's people that have been kidnapped and held prisoner. It's not something that a lot of folks welcome. And it does have a huge impact on people, whether they're guilty or not. And so to say that they don't have any rights, no. It's good for a comedy show, but in real life, no, they do. And another thing that was brought up was they were saying that, well, these inmates are suing the state for not giving them the right. And you're kind of thinking this could be used as an example. Now they're talking about a public lawsuit, not one where they just settle and say shut up and just put it under the rug. This is one where they'll go out and say, we have right to see this eclipse. Now, this show was aired before the decision, so the fact that they were threatening it got them that right, because they do have the right to religion. And so it was really nice to see uh, this discussion go on and kind of give me a insight on what they were thinking. And it brought up some stuff that's happening in this state. Now, I've had a few people contact me about religious artifacts being taken. Now, this could be religion that's mainstream, uh, but a lot of it was just like beads and incense and maybe garments that they would put on. And for me, that was easy. Why did you take this individual's religious artifact? And in many cases, the artifact is returned, and they'll claim it was just a misunderstanding. They were just scooping stuff out of the room, and it was an unauthorized item from appearance. If you see a bead, you might think, oh, these just unauthorized, not realizing that it was a religious artifact. Well, to indiscriminately go into a cell and just start clearing it up like that, no, that's not the way to do it. And this phone call with the trans, that's another thing. Now, I spoke to a lot of people who are straight, and they would have a lot of stuff against trans. They just don't like them. And then I wanted to talk to some trans people, and I finally got in contact with a few. Some of them are appear to me to be the true, genuine article. And so when I talk with them, we got a trans woman who says, I'm just attracted to men. I'm not interested in women. But who will tell me that there's other folks in there who just are kind of like both ways, or they'll just say that. And those are the ones that make them look bad. Now, one of the girls, when I was talking to her about the what she thought about trans people, she was saying that she had a roommate that was a biological male, but identified as a female. And out here, she was in a relationship that was very um, physical. The person treated her bad. And she just felt very uncomfortable being in the room with what she considered a male. And to create trauma, especially on something like that that could be avoided, it just defies all logic. And they may be saying that when the state puts this person in the prison as a woman, then they need to be treated as one. And so there have been instances where these people have impregnated women, or they've raped them, or they've just physically attacked them. And those kind of things are hidden. When I talk to the trans people about it, their phone calls cut off, or the messages are blocked, or the letters don't get out, and it's just one of those things where they just don't feel very comfortable talking about it. It needs to be out, definitely. And for her, she doesn't have this individual as a cellmate anymore, and so she's feeling a little better. But that really bothered her, and she made a point to express that to me. And I was talking to one of my male friends who's in the male prison, and he said just recently he went back to a cell and he found out he had a trans woman as his cellmate, which is kind of odd because they usually take the trans women and put them in the women's prison. And he said he went in there and he just said, "Oh no, 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 no! This is not right." So he went out and he told the officials, "I've got this trans person in my room and I don't want him in there. This is not going to work." And of course, the sergeant says, "No, just kind of see where it goes, and you can deal with it. You're mature enough to handle this." And people say, "No, no, no! I find this guy attractive. This is a pretty cellmate, and I'm not responsible for what I could possibly do." Now he's a clever guy. He knows how to use his words wisely. And of course, the guy's like, "Oh no, no, we can't have that," because if he's threatening to have sexual intercourse with this person, and he tells the prison officials about it, then we've got ourselves a nice little issue here, and that could easily be resolved. And that was smart that he would do something like that. So what I'm thinking, it kind of brings me to why folks would do something like this. a lot of the guards, they know what's going on, and they can manipulate the system. They can play dumb, but it can only go so far, especially when the public hears about it. When you guys, the audience, hears these things, you can come to your own conclusion. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the guards were using this situation to provoke this other person, provoke my friend. That's up to you to decide if you feel that what you're hearing makes you believe that, and that's good. Form your own opinion on it. But I was talking to a person, and I saw him on the news. So I just decided to reach out to him and get his side of the story because they were kind of manipulating it, and I wanted to hear another angle. He got a roommate whose name was Robert Munger. He was in there for sexual assault, child molestation and stuff. So he was a sexual predator. And this guy had raped this man's sister. And when he saw that, he went out and he told the officials, he raped my sister. I can't be in the room with him. And they said, no, you're not supposed to be out here. You need to go through proper channels, go back to your room. And he winds up beating this person to death. Now, he's saying that he didn't mean to. He just wanted to scare the person, kind of draw some attention. But he had a violent past. And he was in there. He had stabbed the person and taken off, running from the cops. And so it was just, you look at it, somebody who wanted to get rid of this Robert Munger guy could have easily have set this up, knowing this. And even this person, Shane Goldsby, he told me I was set up. And I really have no reason not to believe him. It does look like the DOC knew what they were doing. Why would they make themselves look dumb? But they came out and said because the names were different, a lot of families, a Smith will marry a Jones, and the Jones keeps the name, and then you have brothers and sisters that are half or step. And so there's a lot of name differences out there. And so this was one of those cases where they didn't see it in his report, this Robert Munger person. The name of the sister was different from his, and that's how they got off on not being held responsible for this person's death. And so Shane gets an extra term in prison because of this. And I just don't think that was right. But that's up to you what you think of it. And you can even look him up, Shane Goldsmith on online if you want, and kind of read the backstory and see what you think. And I have I'm part of a group online, and I'll read you the one of the stories from this group. Now, this is kind of interesting how this story develops on here. I just received 2 messages from different sources stating that 2 officers went into my son's cell, took his property, cuffed him, punched him in the head until he is bleeding from inside his ears and he can't hear. I've called the institution 3 times and just get told that someone will call me back. It is not being treated as an emergency at all. Florida Department of Corrections needs to have their asses sued off. This is not the first crazy incident we have encountered, and I know much about other inmates who died in there at the hands of correction officers. I've reported this to the Attorney General's office inside Florida's Department of Corrections in Tallahassee. If anybody knows of an attorney that can help me, I may as well be the one to sue the fuck out of Florida Department of Correction. And then another person comes back with a response. There's an attorney representing families who have lost loved ones. Now, when that panel on that TV show, they seem to have a lot of money that they can throw away. Person dies, throw some money at them, tell them to shut up, Move on. Let's kill some more people. Pay it off. In the state of Washington, a human life is worth $10 million. Somebody dies, give them $10 million, move on. Keep putting them in cells where they can get injured. And this thing in Florida just goes right along that line. Well, let's do that. Let's sue them. If the money's there and they're willing to give it away, might as well take it. Why don't I just go out there and make it a point? My goal in life is to sue one facility in every state. I can make a lot of money doing that because these facilities don't care about the inmates. They just want to stay in the shadows and not just hide everything. And that's the way they do it. Well, at the Washington State Penitentiary, a friend over there told me that Gary Ridgway was in intensive care. Is on the verge of death. He was poisoned with fentanyl and arsenic. Now, the officials did an investigation, and they got one of the guards to confess. This Gary Ridgway had killed one of his family members or loved one. I'm not sure if it was related to him. And this was his way of getting back at him. Now, you're not going to hear this on the news unless, of course, he dies. And I don't know what they would say because you can't really hide it once that happens. And if he dies and they say he died from arsenic and fentanyl poisoning, how'd they get in there? And it makes them look bad. So this is not a good situation for them. Of course, they want to hush it. And my friend was telling me, well, Ridgway knows he's a bad guy and he killed a lot of people, and there's going to be a lot of folks that hate him. Yeah, and I'm sure this is not the first time somebody's attempted. But to have a prison official do this. Now, what the family should do is if anything happens to him, I mean, right now they've got a pretty good case. But what if he does die? The state will just want to pay $10 million because that's what his life is worth. Everybody shut up, move on. But this is a high-profile man. And this is a great opportunity to let them know that no matter who you are or what you're in there for, you have rights. And they can't just do anything. And this right here, no, not a good idea. And there needs to be a lawsuit on it. Just as simple as that. And so I'm saying that lawsuits, especially if we get enough of them and we get the message out there, should hopefully have a good effect. And the only way to find that out is just to keep suing. Those folks should sue down in Florida, and I imagine they will. You shouldn't be allowing people to be attacked within their cell. You shouldn't be putting folks in there that will deliberately provoke them. My friend, she was in there for murder. And putting this biological male in the cell with her could have been asking for trouble. And I'm sure they may have even known that. So what I would like to see is every prison should be required to put a little report of suicides and assaults and murders and maybe contraband, like maybe a weapon is found in there or certain types of drugs. And even if there's anybody that is abused by prison officials. I'll get that information out as best I can. I'll put it on my YouTube channel, and I'll put it on my podcast. And I ask that you just keep an eye out. And the best way to do it is to talk to the people that are locked up. You're probably won't hear anything about Gary Ridgway. And that's a shame. And as much as you may despise this man and what he did, I would rather have him locked up, living in there, serving his sentence, than to use my taxpayer money to pay his family, because these people want to hide the fact that anybody who works in that prison can kill anybody that they want to and get away with it. I hear often on the news officials say nobody is above the law. Yeah, they are. The DOC, the Department of Corrections in every state, is above the law. They can kill anybody that they want. They can abuse anybody that they want. And they can treat people like they have no rights at all, just like on that panel. Prisoners don't have rights because in their mind, that's what they believe. And you have a right, or I'm not going to say a right, but you can kill these people that have no rights. You can beat these people up, and you can stick them in cells to see what they would do. Oh, here's a rapist and here's a victim. We've never had this happen before. Let's see what happens when we put them together. This is real world. This is happening out there. And it's wrong, because as small as this world is, eventually you could be the one that's locked up in there, or you could know somebody that's locked up in a situation like that. Now, I've got a friend. She's her daughter's most likely going to go to prison. They've offered her a 10-year, and some of the murderers I talked to said, "Yeah, that's a good deal when you're charged with murder." She didn't physically murder the person, but she was at the crime scene, and so her mother asked me if I could help her meet some people that could help her out. Of course, I can. I'll put the word out for the prison. I just need to know which one she's going to. I think I have an idea which one she will be going to. And then I'll keep in contact with her like I always do. Hopefully, she won't tell me that she was abused by anybody. But there's biological males walking around in there, and she's young. She's very young. She's a prime victim. She's a teenager. And use your imagination. What happens to teenage boys? What happens to teenage girls when they go to their prison? Now, my friend in the Washington State Penitentiary, he said that this trans woman had been kicked out of the Washington Correction Center for Women. I can look into it, ask the other people what they know about it. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens and what I learn and what I can report on something like that. Well, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully, you'll be looking into some of this stuff and being able to form your opinion on what you think. And maybe you'll be able to get out and speak up about how your taxpaying money is spent. I hope you feel the same way I do, that taxpayer money can be spent on things better than hiding up illegal activity within the prisons. But that's up to the taxpayers, that's up to the politicians, that's up to the community. Well, go out and have yourself a fantastic day and make beautiful memories for tomorrow.